Stugotz, I really don't know anymore how to talk about some of this stuff when you go from anger, helplessness, hostility. Yesterday during the show, Tony and Billy were fooling around talking about buying a plot of land in Tennessee. And as it's happening, right, like as soon as we end the show, we go out and all the televisions out there is another school shooting. And I'm just going to read some numbers to you guys because I really don't want you to get numb to this, even though we're the only country in the world that has this happening so often, because we can't protect our kids. Like, we don't care to. The American people want to change. Our leaders are too in bed with money. And the sacrifice, the human sacrifice, is literally, let's file it under political arguments, gun arguments, freedom arguments, and kids keep dying in schools. And the numbers are just appalling. You can't get numb to the numbers because none of you would be numb to the numbers if this was your kids.
If it impacted you or families that you know or people that you know or your community. But Dan, like, I'm sad to say, I feel like as a country, we're past the point. We're already numb to it.
Okay,
we shouldn't be, but I feel like we are.
Okay, but I'm for the moment, forgive me, just let me put on pause for a second because I do not want to continue to interrupt shenanigans, playgrounds, sports stuff with dead children. I don't want to do it, but this is the only country where I can do it. I have the freedom to do it, and the love of guns is such, and it's so corrupt and moneyed. Our politicians in bed with these people cooking bacon off of hot guns. I just want to read you some numbers. Maybe you're numb to this. The AR-15 industry are saying, like, pay attention to what's happening in this country, please. If you've ever had to flee to find your freedom, to escape to find it, you might value it more than the people making bogus, bad faith arguments now about why it is that they need AR-15 killing machines meant to kill human beings. And now, again and again and again, dead children in our schools, dead children with numbers that are horrifying. It's not just the dead, it's all the kids that are in the room with the dead. Like, go ahead and try and grow out of that at some point in your life. And at least 20 million AR-15s are stored and stashed across the country. More than 13.7 million of those have been manufactured by U.S. gun makers just since the Newtown massacre in late 2012, with those sales generating roughly $11 billion in revenue. The cost is dead children, again and again. A country that cannot protect its children. It's like the worst thing you can say. And the Washington Post did a study on AR-15s, and it should horrify you if you're just watching the divisions in this country. At any point, Trump here is allegedly, reportedly, practicing his perp walk because violence is coming again, obviously. You don't think that what just happened is going to go away, right? It's getting worse. We're selling more and more guns, more and more of these killing machine guns. Since the Columbine High School massacre in 1999, more than 338,000 students in this country. 338,000 students in this country have experienced gun violence at school. At school! At a place where, for learning. 2022, more school shootings, 46, than in any year since Columbine. 2023, there have been at least 59 children from the ages of 0 to 12 killed as a result of gun violence. 59 children. 2023, 130 mass shootings. It's fucking March! 100 come on, man. Like, what? I don't know. Like, you're numb to that? Like, I'm not saying you're numb to that. I'm saying, you can't be numb to that. Like, imagine your child in a school sitting there. You left them there in the morning thinking it was safe, thinking America was safe. Left them there. You don't get them back. Like, what? It's that random. Like, it's Parkland. It's Knoxville, you learn the names of cities. Like, why wouldn't it come to your school? All it takes is one incel. All it takes is one group of people that have been lonely, wronged by women. Don't have a life where they feel oppressed because the American system doesn't give them something, and they can't get a date. Everyone, they're repressed, lonely people that are individual soldiers going all over the place as we're in the middle of a civil war. And the result, the cost, again and again, is dead children. Like, you can't be okay with, you cannot be okay with the idea that you could drop your kid off at school only in this country, the freest country, and you won't get them back at the end of the day because you got to worry that this is going to happen. How can the schools not be safe, Stugotz? Like,
I don't think it's numbness. I think it's helplessness, and it's terrifying. If I'm being honest, I think about my granddaughter being dropped off at school and have worry that was just completely foreign to me a few years ago even. And we all thought we all thought Sandy Hook was a turning point. How naive were we?
Columbine was a turning point.
Parkland was.
There are all these, they're turning points, and I just read you a bunch of numbers, more and more guns. And it's not just guns, Stugotz, it's these guns.
Right. These guns that have no business being in the hands of the people who have them in their hands. These guns that should not be sold to teenagers in stores across America. Dan, when I say numb to it, I'm talking from a media coverage, from people sitting there and watching. Like, that story came on. There was a time where CNN would have spent days on it, and now it's 15 minutes, move on. And so I do feel like, as a country, it's not dominating their entire news coverage, is what I'm saying. And unless, it hurts me to say this, if you haven't been impacted by it, then you really don't know what it feels like. And it's sad because you tend to move on because you don't know what it feels like for your community to go through it. There are only a bunch of communities throughout the United States who have been through this. It's growing every day.
It's not an only now. It's not.
I know,
but
unless you've been impacted by it, you really don't know what it feels like and what it does to your city or to your town.
The numbers suggest, at the rate that we're going proportionally, you're gonna get impacted by it.
But until you are actually impacted by it, I'm saying, you don't really know what the impact is, because people in Parkland are still living with it every single day. It is impossible to drive around the city that I live in without a daily reminder of what happened at Stoneman Douglas. It's impossible. I drive past the school every day. And it impacts me just about every single day. And I just feel like, because it's become somewhat and so commonplace.
It can't be that. This is what I'm telling you, Stugotz. That can't be allowed to be.
Dan, I don't want it to be that way.
It can't be allowed to be, is what I am telling you.
That's not up to you.
Obviously it's not up to the American people, because the American people aren't okay with this. They're not. It's only our lawmakers.
Well, how can anyone be okay with this except the lawmakers?
What do we do, though, is the question. We all sit here.
Stop taking money.
I feel like we all agree. Like, what
does that mean? What does that mean, stop taking money?
Well, the NRA makes so many political contributions, Dan, that, the politicians tend to side with the NRA.
Again,
that's unfortunate.
I don't really, I don't want to get into the forever argument that happens after things like this, where people choose sides on dead children. We can argue about anything these days. We're divided about everything these days. I didn't think there was another argument on the side of dead children, but we can politicize it, and it can become guns don't kill people, people kill people, as mental health problems continue to make these wayward soldiers feed off of the divisions in this country and think they're starting. Okay, now the Civil War starts. I'm going to go now, right, with my crazy, and I'm going to shoot up a school, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to become famous or infamous, and I'm going to die. I'm going to be one of the dead there after I've shot kids randomly with guns that under no circumstances should ever be in schools for any reason around kids. And it doesn't not only not get fixed, it's getting worse. And why wouldn't it keep getting worse if the divisions keep getting worse? And it feels like civil war is everywhere. And it feels like there are no leaders who are actually getting things done to fight the money, because the American infrastructure is polluted everywhere by corruption and money. And your government officials are just salespeople on behalf of lobbies. They're not even powerful people dictating the change. They're protecting the status quo, which is dangerous enough to, again, kill children at school.
But I guess that's the part where I roll my eyes now, where politicians will come, no more. This can't happen anymore. It's like rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
We do that. These events happen. They're tragic. They're awful. We cry. A politician comes on your TV, a president, tells you he's going to change it or she's going to change it, and they never do.
Yeah.
And then it goes away until the next
It
story,
hasn't gone
which
away.
is now 2 days later, right?
They're happening too often.
That's what I'm saying.
He's saying the story goes away,
Right.
which is terrible.
But it doesn't go away because it keeps arriving on our doorstep.
Well, the next one used to be months away, and now it's days away, and in some cases hours away.
But it used to be miles away.
So much of the country is crying out, "Keep your thoughts and prayers. Give me action." And the problem is no action ever happens. And already we see the extreme far right saying what we need is more guns in the hands of good people. That's actually a quote I heard from a politician I'm not even going to name.
But I when we talk about I get why we do this. I get why every single time the conversation turns to whatever the politics are about this, so that we have the talking points. But I really don't think anyone listening to this is okay with dead children. Like there's no one sane listening to this being okay with schools being shot up.
But there seems to be people who care more about certain issues with their politicians and what they stand for on those issues than caring about whether or not there's money lining their pockets from the NRA. Realistically, there's politicians all over this country who we know how much money they take from the NRA, and there are people who vote for them over and over and over again because they are single-issue voters on other things, or they are so obsessed with the Second Amendment that they can't seem to understand this issue.
Again, I just don't know what to do with the advancing of this conversation when it continues to feel as frustrating, as helpless, as infuriating. And then you can go issue by issue, whether it's abortion or elsewhere, where there's a fundamental disconnect, where if you poll the American people, you will find that 70 and 75% of people are not okay with something that the money controls with the 25%. And the result, the cost, is dead children.